Are you struggling to keep up after 40? Has life smacked you like a runaway train? In this video, I will show you how you can learn 5 times faster and unlock the math skill that people need to thrive in today's very complex, fast world. My name is Henri. I've been advisor to companies. I've helped multiple businesses to grow 10, 100 times X. I've been a professor. I've been even a lifeguard. I have worn many hats, but I'm here today as a journey person. I am here today because I am doing a big shift in my life, and I welcome to this shift. After 40, or whatever that number is for you, is just an abstract number. The midlife journey always provokes us to create and reflect and change things so we can keep up and we become the best version that we can be. Life is not a linear journey. Probably you know that better than me. And we are all in this together, doing all meandering pathways. And as things got complex, as I met many different friends and we share our lives, and I start to feeling this buzz inside of me that things need to change in order to keep my journey onwards. I come across something that is very important that we call the method, a skill that unlocks everything else. That is learning how to learn. Have you ever stopped to learn how to learn? Have you ever really give yourself consideration and strategize on how can you learn things faster? So not only keeping up with what our events are happening in your life, but you can thrive in whatever you choose to be. You can thrive as a parent, thrive as a professional, maybe you're opening your business. Maybe you're really just looking forward to learning and change things in your life. So if you don't learn how to learn, you're gonna be stuck with the skills and the mind framing that you have that took you where you are. And the middle of the journey is very challenging to all of us. We all feel this unease. We all feel that we need to do something else with what we got from life until the moment. And this moment of breaking the mold and doing this shift, it's very important that you have one tool in your side, and I'll show you what's this tool right now. The problem is that as things are progressively getting more complex, we are in a movement of AI, generative artificial intelligence is coming up online. There's lots of things that are happening right now. Our life, especially when you are in this mature stage that you have many responsibilities, maybe you have a family to take care, pets, family, kids, maybe you have already dedicated yourself a couple of years in your craft, in whatever profession or career you have. And those things, they suck up your time, they suck up your attention, and they put themselves in severe stress. You're physically feeling stress, your mind is feeling stress, maybe you're sleep deprived because there's so much going on in your life. You are doom scrolling, that is essentially a very sure way to teleport yourself to death because you're killing yourself doing nothing of value. And if you don't put together this math skill that we are going to show and explain in detail the 5 steps to build it, you're probably going to just be trapped in this dark corner of your journey, right? I will tell you what led me to stumble into this math skill, learning how to learn. And there is a name for it. There is a system that helps you to learn. I'll share personally how I got to that because that may be helpful for you, right? As a immigrant to Canada, as someone that have had its fair share of successes and failures in a couple of decades doing stuff and doing the market, I realized that I was running out of time. I don't know if you ever thought about that, but when you're in a point of life that you already had some financial success, you already have an ongoing family, maybe you lost your parents already, or your parents are old and they require your attention, or maybe you just realize that life is very much finite. It's not that you don't know that when you're younger, it's just that by the time that you reach mid-journey, that shift in perception of things start to mature, and then you need to figure out what's next for you, because the next is coming, regardless you want or not. And for me, that happened when set foot in a new country, right? I had essentially paused my business operations. I had fired clients, I had fired my team, and I was the sole breadwinner of my household, and I had to figure out what's next would look like. And very soon, the time that I was getting to this new country, imagine I had a strategic plan put in place to do things. Maybe you already experienced that. You're going to do something very hard, but you have things figured out. You have a plan. My plan was very good. It was open a new business, keep up with my old business, starting a post-graduation course, interpreting for my family because nobody spoke English on my household. At the same time that I do all that, getting thinner, fight depression. Well, long story short, the plan did not work out. I felt like a failure for that first year, because at least the first half of the year, because every single endeavor that I set myself to do was too much. I was literally depressed with the sheer pressure, crushing pressure of having to provide for my family and do all. I couldn't learn anything, I couldn't do anything. And that, although it was very painful, was a turning point in my life, because I realized that I always consider myself a somewhat intelligent person, cognitively speaking, right? I never had difficulties to learn things. I have a decent memory. But that moment, a couple years ago, made me really get to my knees and rethink everything, because my mind was simply in a standstill. I could observe anything else. I was feeling a lot of fear that I would not be able to keep up and keep evolving. And I don't remember exactly what was the video on YouTube or if it was a book, but I remember that I stumbled into a concept called PKMS, Personal Knowledge Management System. So the Personal Knowledge Management System, it's a way that you systematize how you learn so you can learn more. It's a way that you think, that you start to organize everything that you're thinking in a systematic way so you actually can retain, learn, and incorporate those skills. And when I stumbled into this concept, I thought, this is it. I had to put together PKMS, Personal Knowledge Management System, in place so I could get my, pardon my language, my together. You got the message, right? So when I start my journey learning how to implement that, I found 5 steps that helps a whole lot if you are doing that. If you are in the moment that everything feels a little bit hard and you need to do this change, you need to shift from one person that was, taking care of you to another person that you're going to evolve, incorporate into. If you need to shed your old skin, become someone new, this is the very foundation of any transformational process. And the neat thing about that is that this is applied to business, this is applied to personal development, this is applied for family handling things, you name it. My son, for example, he goes to a full French school. We are not native speakers of French, but we are having to learn French in order to keep up with his academic journey, right? So we can support him better. Without a PKMS, this will be much harder. I will share now the 5 steps that you need to implement your own personal knowledge management system. They are straightforward. If you need further help with that, I'm pretty sure that there will be other content videos that I can refer, and just comment below and I'll be more than glad to help you with your particular struggle. But let's cut to the chase and go to the 5 steps to implement your own personal management system. The 5 steps are knowledge capture. The 5 steps are capture, organization, processing, application, review. With these 5 steps, you are able to implement correctly and effectively a personal knowledge management system. Now, I'm going to go deeper and dive in explaining how you come across doing that for each single step. And by the way, you may be feeling, if you're sticking around for this video until this point, you're probably thinking, but maybe this will not work out for me because I don't have the smarts, or I don't have the intelligence for that, or you may have many other objections running in your mind. Rest assured that this is not about intelligence. When I started implementing that, I was in my lowest point in my whole life in terms of cognitive capacity. I was with a crippling depression. I was unable to do basic things. I was almost unable to take care of myself, and the simplest things of getting a glass of water for myself was really, really tough time. So it's definitely not about intelligence, because there is a moment that your intelligence may not be as sharp. However, the wisdom that comes with the ability of connecting things, the ability of not so much of retrieving information, but contextualize information with the right lenses, it is very powerful. It's just like a camera. I don't know if you know those professional cameras that you have a body of the camera. Imagine the body of the camera as your brain, your cognitive ability, but you have lenses that frame the world for you. Those lenses, they can help you to see farther or closer, see details in a wider perspective. The changing the lenses of how you see the world helps a whole lot more. And that's the ability of connecting knowledge using a personal knowledge management system, right? Now, come with me. Let's dive into the first step on how to implement that. Knowledge capture is the beginning of this journey, and it's very straightforward. It's very hard for you to observe and learn new things if you don't have a good system to capture knowledge. And when you say knowledge capture, I'm talking about very simple things. Some folks, they do with sticky notes. Some other folks, they do taking notes in a notebook. Some other folks do, I don't know, maybe audio notes. But the point is, you need to have a very structured way to grab things so you can later on process them. It's impossible at any point of life to keep up with information absorption, right? The world produces much more information than is ever possible to fathom. So in my case, for example, I study a lot watching videos on YouTube, the right kind of videos, not entertaining videos, focusing on bettering myself. What I do normally, I have a playlist that I create for me, that I named with the project that I'm working on or the idea that I'm searching for. In every single video that I watch that has connected a chord with me about that topic, I'll save it in that playlist, because then later I can do something with that. I'll show you example of things that we can do with what you're saving in terms of knowledge, right? Maybe this video will do that trick for you, so you can save this video in a playlist so you can refer to those steps later, right? That can be quite helpful. All right, another very important point about saving and capturing what you're coming across is that these will prevent you to burn out in your journey to learn new things. It's very easy to get so intoxicated with the new things that you're trying to achieve and learn, watching multiple videos, even trying to read multiple books, that you get what we call information overload. Maybe you're experiencing that right now. If you're doing that, if you're experiencing information overload, you just cannot observe anything else because it's too much for you. Probably it's because you're not capturing it. You're trying to keep everything on your mind. It's a very common thing to happen, and you may or may not know that only 5% of information that we see is conscious, right? We have a very small bandwidth for keeping things in our mind, literally. So that's why we need to have a reservoir, have a place that we can stash information so we can retrieve later. If you do that, for example, you're reading books in Kindle and you highlight your notes, or saving the videos on YouTube, or sticky notes, or a notebook, but get something that allows you to capture things so you don't get yourself in a spot that you are information overload, right? That will allow you to go to the next step, that is logically knowledge organization. Once you capture knowledge, you go to knowledge organization, and there things start to take shape in a way that will be much better for you. When you start to do dwelling and working on your knowledge organization, you start to be able to integrate what you're learning with yourself in a way that makes sense, especially for you. That's the trick. That's the key part. Organizing knowledge is not super new, but when you integrate that in your knowledge management system and you do that in a way that makes sense to you, you will see that things will start to compound in a very positive effect. Simple things like organizing the pieces of information that you got in folders, or maybe in tags, or maybe simply by the name of the author or the source, but find a way to organize the information. Why? When you start to organize things in the right box and compartments, the process of organization, of sorting out, will lead to something extremely important in your journey to evolve. That is pattern recognition. Have you ever come across to a very messy room that when you start to organize, you start to sort the clothing by maybe the size or the color, or you start to find new possibilities within the same things that were there. Remember yesterday I was organizing my toolbox. I opened my toolbox in my basement, and then I think I was fixing something, and I saw the different kinds of bits, the different kinds of power tools. It gave me a big pleasure to put them in more of an order. It's still chaotic, but chaotic in my way. I even fixed 2 or 3 things that were waiting for to be fixed because I couldn't find the right tool. So I found the right tool, fixed things very quickly, and the pattern that generated was very positive. So when you start to organize things, you start to see their likes and you start to organize the pattern. So it's very cool and very helpful. Well, once you capture and you organize, then you go to the next step of your personal knowledge management system. And this next step is synthesis. When you start working on this next step, and this next step is processing. When you start working on this next step of processing information, you start to not only capture or organize, but because of the patterns when you're organizing, you start to see how things are actually connected, integrated, so you can make your own summaries, your own synthesis, right? So in my example of the toolbox that I started to organize, I had this whole things, bits and pieces everywhere, I started to put them together. I noticed that, for example, that I had lots of a certain kind of bolt that should be in a small container. And when I did that, and I had to fix something else that required that specific bolt, was much easier to retrieve it because I know exactly where it was. That process of putting things in or neatly organized and creating the synthesis will allow you to then do a memory recall, will allow you to, in an easier way, to go back and grab what you need for whatever intention you're doing. So, for instance, maybe you're trying to learn a new skill for your career, right? And then you have your notes organized in folders. Maybe you have a OneNote or Evernote or Cortex or whatever note-taking device you're using. You will be able, if you're correctly tagging and organizing everything that you're learning, to quickly search for it and retrieve it. And then you will be able to see a synthesis, a summary of what it was necessary or was important for you, the pattern that you saw when you were putting together, right? I cannot overstate how important this is, because that will allow you to be so much more effective in terms of actually using the information that you start to put together in your personal knowledge management system, right? The key of this third step is the recall, is be able to recall, be able to fetch again, be able to manipulate the information that you were handling and storing, right? We come to the fourth step. The fourth step is straightforward, but likewise extremely helpful and important. The fourth step is the application of that information, that new thing that you're handling, that you're learning, right? So this is where I think that most folks fail. Probably if you reach the fourth step, means that you are not with information overload anymore because you solved that in the first and the second step, but you may still be finding hard to truly incorporate the new things that you're learning. That's the application part, is that when you solve that, right? The application involves you having something tangible, something that is inspiring you to go on and do new things. That will allow you to correctly apply what you're learning. For example, in my own journey, I was sharing that my son is in a full French school. In order for me to learn French, the fact that my son is doing in a full French school, and I have all my French notes that I'm learning French as well, it's much easier for me to reinforce what I've learned, the synthesis of the information that I'm getting, if I can grab those and apply to a real context. So, for example, when I call school to talk something about my kid, I practice my French in a context that's actually real life. So having a project, having an objective that is real life, that's meaningful for you. For example, maybe you're a little bit overweight and then you want to learn more about dieting and gym. One thing is when you're doing that from your desk, watching YouTube videos, binge watching. The other thing is when you are actually trying to go for a walk, trying to have a project, having a reason why you will apply that knowledge. It makes the world of difference in the application part, the fourth step, the application part of your PKMS, really start to propel you in the right direction. One last thing about this fourth step is that you need to find a way to apply it immediately. Don't save it for later. For example, when I was organizing my toolbox, I found the right bolts or the right tools. It would have made any meaningful change in my life if I had not immediately just grabbed the right tool and fixed that small thing that was waiting for me to be fixed. You see what I mean? The fact that I did something in the real world that made my life slightly better, even if it's just a little bit better, applying something that I've just done in terms of organizing in my PMKS, helped me to have a benefit that would then, in turn, confirm the right direction and reinforce the whole system. So the application, don't underestimate the application part. Same thing with French. I learned a new way of talking French. When I called the school of my son, I was able to say hello and to compliment and to ask, inquire about things in a much more contextualized way that gave me pleasure, gave me a sense of progress. I reinforce positively what I've just learned. Now, you're probably ready for the fifth step of your personal knowledge system. The fifth step of your personal knowledge system is review. You can only go so far if you keep always adding new stuff without actually taking stock of the progress that you made and take a look on your notes. This is a part that, oddly enough, although I did not have a PKMS, I already had a habit of journaling and writing about things in my whole life. I was doing this step and not doing all the others. That is reviewing, looking back and seeing what I've wrote so I can reinforce that information and recall and inspire. This, I cannot understate how important this is, especially if you're feeling stuck, if you're facing a challenge that you feel that's too big for you. If you are in a moment like that, the reviewing portion of your knowledge system should allow you to find new ways to get ideas, to get inspiration, to reinforce what you've learned so far. And the review also allow you to learn with your own journey, your own mistakes, without having to replicate the mistakes again. Because as you create the synthesis of everything you've learning, you're able to look as an open book and then find new paths so you avoid failure in the next time. For example, say that I stumbled into words when I was trying to apply French talking to the school. Next time that I go to my notes and I review the grammar rules, how a dialogue goes, I would have that experience, and then reviewing it, I would make the knowledge applied, and that would prevent me the next time that I call for the school to commit the same mistake. So reviewing is very important. So now that you have it, I'll share with you bonus information about other systems that exist that leverage essentially the same structure but applied in different ways. I'll at least show you some of those systems very quickly, just name them, and then you can figure out what works best for you, right? The PKMS, you can apply for many other different systems. For example, you have a system that's very common in productivity folks called Getting Things Done, GTD. GTD is a management system for productivity, but in a way is also a knowledge system, right? The way that it flows. So there you have it. If you are curious about it, write a comment, or you can search videos about GTD, Getting Things Done, because it can also help. It also follows the same structure, same steps, right? Another system that's popular that uses roughly the same structure we call PARA. That there's a system that it involves you work with projects, areas of your life that you need to look into, resources that allows you to execute the projects in the right areas of your life, and then archive. That's where you stash everything. I also will not go deep about Para in this video. I'm just sharing with you so you know there are things around that can help in this journey. And there are other things that are linking ideas, mind mapping. There are many different tools that can incorporate and make this personal knowledge management system more robust. But you don't need all that crap. You can, and that's very helpful. All those things are extremely helpful, but you don't need any of that. If you follow those steps, you can start structuring in your own way, and that will set you for sure for success, right? So you can learn much faster. And then the 5 times faster is actually research based. It's between 3 to 5 times faster when you start to organize things in that way. That's the way to keep up, right? And why this works. You have one advantage over everybody else. One advantage that's very unique to you. That's in your own experience up to this point in life. So this tool that we're discussing, this approach of having a PKMS set up for you, will leverage your strongest point as your life experience. If you're trying to go about life doing things without using what you got best, it's much harder. So please implement your personal knowledge management system, because that will be a life change. It was a life change, game changer for me. I feel that I'm on route to achieve the things that I'm setting forth to do. And I'm pretty sure that this will help you a whole lot too, right? And if you're watching until now and you have not liked this video, please like the video and subscribe. Thank you so much, and onwards to the next video. Welcome to the shift.